everyone. So I am inviting you guys on a journey. I have realized through the process of immigration, the visa and everything, that SSRIs, I've been on SSRIs for 2 years for my anxiety. I started in 2022 after an entire lifetime of denying that I was anxious because my anxiety never manifested in like worrisome thoughts, which is a really, really common expression of generalized anxiety. It was all somatic. So it was all muscle tension and irritability. In fact, in many ways, when I think about it, I expressed very similar to how men typically express, which goes to show you the intersectional value of all research, not just medical research, where men are vastly underrepresented in studies of mood disorders, and women can express like men too. And I think I'm one of those. So my anxiety typically manifests in irritability and kind of like a driven by a motor, but in a very negative way. It's more of like a driven by a giant zombie horde running behind me, except the only way to escape the zombie horde is to be productive at all times. And, you know, the productivity of the actual productive work is questionable at times. And it's kind of what some people talk about in kind of like pop psych land. I think it's a reasonable language to use, even though it's not diagnostic, which would be like functional anxiety. My anxiety makes me extremely good at school and work because it basically makes me a workaholic. I escape my anxiety through feeling productive and useful. And I can't take SSRIs anymore because they're making my brain fog horrible. And I was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, which will tie into this video in a little bit. But one of the symptoms of that is fatigue. And so with the SSRIs causing brain fog and the autoimmune disorder causing fatigue and my brain injury, it's just been, I just haven't been fully 100% me, like operating at 100%, really there, really logical, thinking well, engaging and wrestling with concepts creatively. My creativity was like nuked. And so I've decided, after talking with my doctor, it's all in the clear, to go off of SSRIs. But unfortunately, that means that I have to figure out a way to manage this like deep set long-term anxiety without medication, which is really scary. I think my anxiety was a really big factor that led to a lot of Nick and I's marital issues. And so I'm pretty nervous. And I thought, I had this idea, and by I had this idea, I mean, Nick suggested something like this, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could do it in this way, and this way, and this way, and this way. And he was like, you should do that, and then just make content of it. So because I have a psychometric background, I'm obviously very comfortable with data and psychological evaluation. Now, there's a lot of psychological evaluations that I'm trained on that I can administer to myself, like IQ tests and WIPSIs, but I don't think that they'd be interesting to include as a measure for this, but they're not necessarily relevant. But basically, I'm going to re-up to make sure that the measures that I'm used to for anxiety and depression, and probably like, I think I might do a global functioning score as well, are the most up to date. Which would be like the BAI, so Beck anxiety, Beck depression, and then there's usually like a GFH, like global functioning, no GFI, or there's like a global functioning index. I'll need to look up the name of it again. But my thought is that basically I'll take these, they're free online, and I might turn them into, I'll probably put it on Qualtrics if I can afford this subscription. Qualtrics is just, it's actually the way that most data scientists build like self-report questionnaires. If they want to do questionnaires online, is you just build a Qualtrics questionnaire, it fills it in, and then every person who fills it in, it collects into data, and it's really easy to export to any data system. And basically I want to do, I'm probably just going to work through all of the empirically tested measure treatments for anxiety and depression. And when I say anxiety, depression, I should probably qualify that. What I'm really looking for isn't just, so a lot of psychology is very concerned with taking you from like -4 to 0. That would be the BAI, BDI anxiety treatment. What I'm interested in is not just evaluating my -4 to 0 experience, but also trying to evaluate my 0 to like +8 experience. So my like well-being, because I think I actually have a fair bit of well-being despite having a fair bit of like mental health issues. And so I'm going to track it all for you guys. So I'm basically going to try to do 30 days of different methods basically that are recommended that improve anxiety and depression. And then I'm going to fill out a measure daily to kind of correlate the progression of my anxiety depression with whatever measure I'm implementing at the time. And it works out really well to tie into the autoimmune, because right now I just got accepted to a clinical trial for the autoimmune disorder that I was diagnosed with in January. Thank you, Dr. Kelly Jean. Not even joking. She recommended it. I've gone into an actual doctor and been confirmed. I have a disorder called Sjogren's disease. It's progressive, just means that I'm dry all the time. It has like other effects and symptoms. It's where like the acid tears come from. But anyways, for this clinical study, I have to fill out like a dryness measure, basically, where I self-report how dry I feel every day. And I have to do that for the next like 14 months. I think is the length, 14 or 16 months. It's a really long study. So I'm already required to build in this habit. And it sends me a text every day reminding me to do it. So I'm just going to chain the habit, which is, by the way, if you want to build new habits, one of the best things to do is chain it. So if there's something that reminds you, I feel pressure to fill out this dryness thing because it's a clinical trial and I don't want to mess up some cool scientist's data. I'll just add on top of that, filling out my Qualtrics measures. I'm not 100% on the Qualtrics. I need to play around with some of the systems out there because I would like it to be basically a measure that renews every day and collects my data that I can do on my phone as an app is my goal. So I'll build in probably 3, maybe 4 measures. I'm going to look at the literature tonight. If you're wondering how I would go about looking at the literature, I'll just super quickly show you. So right here, sorry, I'm blasting your eyeballs. That didn't help. Well, enjoy. Right here is Wikiversity. I really like Wikiversity as like a beginner of finding different like measures and evaluations. It's just like a really good overview. So it is doing in youth. Most measures for mood disorders that work for youth work just as well in adults. It's just you have to secondarily test them in youth to make sure that they apply generally. But obviously I will still check every measure for adult measures. Nothing that I'm using is normalized. And when I say normalized, all that means is that I would be comparing my own data to other people a lot like me. So it would be like other 31-year-old women, for example. None of these measures are normalized. The BAI, BDI isn't normalized. There's just kind of like clinical cutoffs and stuff to interpret the data. So they're really, really simple measures. There's nothing super crazy going on. But I want to basically correlate the time of treatment over time with the fluctuation in my anxiety and depression. I don't really have depression like regularly, although as a result of kind of this recent business drama and all of the like harassment and straight up like lies that have been spread about me, I've definitely been experiencing some episodic depression. And so I figured I may as well throw that in the lump. And then, yeah, I want to do probably a couple of positive psych. Those are the ones that I need to look a lot more into because positive psych is a new field that started in like the 1990s. And so I'm way less familiar with positive psychology self-reports because it's a newer industry. And the reality is that as a psychometrist, almost all of the work that I do is looking at like disorders. So it's looking at the 0 to -4. So we're just like less concerned with like generalized well-being. Just a whole other conversation. But anyways, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I figured what I'm probably going to do is work my way through all the empirical stuff. And then if I still have time or I'm really enjoying it or you guys are really enjoying it, I might even work my way through like pseudoscientific claims. It just depends on cost. Everything that I'm going to start off with, especially because I have $0 to my name, is going to be free things that you can do. So that would be things like journaling. So what I'm going to start off with, because I've already been doing it a fair bit, is going to be nature. I'm just going to add an additional element from actually one of my she studied under the same supervisor I did in undergrad. She's now got a PhD. She was ahead of me by like 3 or 4 years, but she's got a PhD in nature and positive psychology. So I might look at implementing some of her depression anxiety measures just because I'm really familiar with the methodology, just because I've probably read every single paper she's ever done, and my supervisor did the studies with her. So we just talked about her methodology a lot. So I'm just really familiar with it. So that's probably what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do nature stuff. Typically the nature stuff, usually requires you to engage in some level of like awe and like a mindfulness around nature. So it's not just being in nature. You're supposed to be in nature typically for about 30 minutes, but then ideally you like write something down, or you like take some level of intentional note to appreciate the like beauty or comfort or whatever nature inspires in you. You intentionally engage with that in the 30 minutes while you're spending time in nature. So because I do horse chores every single day, I'm in nature every day for a minimum of an hour. So that will be super easy to do. Unless it's raining, but even if it's raining, you're still supposed to do it, even if you just sit on your porch. So that'll be the tricky thing, especially I should definitely do the nature first, because it's going to be rainy season here in Florida somewhat soon. So then I can kind of dodge like a daily deluge of misery. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. If you are interested in it, you can follow along, and there's a good chance I will make some of this available to you guys, but not right away, because I need to just think about, I just need to like talk to, I always check with the college. I'm not registered as an addictions counselor anymore, but it's always good to just like check with the local college. So I'd probably email the American Psychology Association, just make sure it'd be okay that I like release just these measures, and it would just be like my version of these collected measures and the data. Yeah, we'll have to see. I might not, just as a heads up. I need to think about it, but regardless, you're welcome to join along. I'll probably walk you guys through probably the next video that I release, because this is pretty brief, is going to be me showing you how I'm building the measures that I'm using and why I'm using them, as well as like how I'm going to be evaluating myself daily. So look forward to that. Here's to trying to get well soon. I will probably also be releasing a letter to my future self. I'm going to probably every month or two, I'm not sure how often I want to do it. I might even like look into the literature on this. There probably isn't a time. There might be like a treatment module that maybe I can find, where I just write a letter to myself, like kind of what I hope for my future self, and then I'll open them at some set time. I'm not sure when. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the journey, and if you don't, hopefully I do. I suppose. Just so it's clear, while this is like scientific in nature, this is obviously not going to be like a super, super high quality empirical study, because it has an N size of 1. I have a whole bunch of confounding factors that would impact the treatments, which is that I have a progressive autoimmune disorder. I'm 31 and a woman, and I'm already previously established a very, very physically active person. So even though these correlates, these like confounding factors are oftentimes not accounted for in a lot of anxiety treatments, it's just something to be aware of, that like, if I go through an experience and I find one thing really helpful and then you try it and you don't, that's totally normal. This is really scientific stylized. It's intentional in trying to like track the data over time. But I would never take my data of one and say that it could be applied to other people necessarily. You're welcome to try it, but yeah, this is not prescriptive in any way, shape, or form. You might be wondering, what are the treatments that I'm thinking of like employing immediately? So I'm going to do a month of just like pure nature stuff. What I need to think about is so like the nature stuff, I can remove the awe. I can't really remove feeding my horses. They have to be fed every day. So I will probably like apply a treatment and then remove it and then do a new one for a month. That probably makes the most sense. Otherwise, if I just like add on top, then it's hard to know which treatment is helping. It's probably just like the fact that I'm doing all these things. And I think it'd be more interesting to see like how each one kind of impacts my mood month by month. So I'm going to start with the nature. An obvious next one will be some form of like a CBT style journal. I'm going to look and kind of see what's out there, what I like the most, because it's been a few years since I've looked at the literature. So I'll probably do a CBT style journal after that. I'll probably do ice baths. That's like that one might be later. But some form of like mindfulness meditation practice where all I'm doing is like a mindful meditation. I might do a couple of different variations as well. So for example, there's just a lot of different styles of mindfulness meditation, and I'm going to actually probably try out a couple of different modules of it. And then I guess we'll see. I'm going to just kind of look in the literature and see what's out there. I might even look at like cardio. I do very, very little cardio myself. So I'm curious to see if 30 days of cardio would change my anxiety. So we'll just look, see what's kind of empirically supported, and I'm going to test it out. And then after that, if we're still having fun with it, I might try some more alternative medicine treatments as well and see what the effects would be, at least for me personally. I'm very, very curious. Ice bathing would be more in that direction. I think there's some literature that's coming out about ice bathing and anxiety. But yeah, that's going to be the plan. I know a lot of you have probably been waiting on my Finding Feminism series. I would like to continue it. Yeah, it's not been lost on me. I just, it's been tough. So anyways, I'm going to do that for a little while. As always, big hugs, big kisses, think well. Oh, and if you like my content, subscribe. Okay, I lost like 400 subs because of like people lying about me. So let's try to build that back. And if you like my content, share it with a friend. Leave a comment. Tell me about the last time you ate green beans and how you cooked them to make them delectable. I personally like my green beans a little crunchy. What's it called? Not sous vide, blanch. I blanch my green beans, and then afterwards I throw them in the pan with some butter and garlic, fry those up, put a little bit of crushed red pepper. It's my favorite way, personally, to have green beans. Okay. I hope you have a day as wonderful as you are. And get well soon, guys.